Welcome to today's Facebook Live event, which we're hosting at Heriot-Watt, which is Scotland's National Performance Centre for Sport, to promote two new Masters courses that are being developed in collaboration with Heriot-Watt University and are open for student applications in September 2017. My name is Neil Gibson. The role I have at Heriot-Watt is the Director of Sport, Performance and Health. And I'm also working with the School of Social Sciences at Heriot-Watt University to develop two new Masters courses, which is Management and Leadership in Sport Performance and Management and Leadership in Sport Business. A little bit about my role at Heriot-Watt. We have a number of sports who use the centre, and me and my staff, job it is to make sure that facilities of a requisite standard, and also to conduct aspects of research in sports science and provide services such as strength and conditioning, physiology and performance analysis. I'm joined today by Gary McGrath, who's one of our sports scientists, and the person you can see in the pool is Greg Lobban, one of Scotland's squashers athletes on their performance programme. Greg is currently number 2 in Scotland, and unfortunately for him is currently rehabbing from a hamstring injury. And that really is going to form the basis of what we're going to talk about today in the Facebook Live event. You can see Greg's in the pool. The pool is a really important part of the building that was associated with Heriot-Watt. It has an underwater treadmill, which Greg's currently walking on, and jets positioned around the pool so we can challenge the athletes during each stage of their rehab. It's not just rehab that we would use the pool for. We can use it as a form of condition athletes, especially when we want to reduce the physical load that they would put them under, especially in sports such as squash that involve quite a lot of running or lunging or patterns that might be deemed to put high stress loads through the musculoskeletal system. Before we start talking any more about the situation that Greg finds himself in, we're just going to increase the treadmill to a jog. I should say that this is Greg's at least 3rd session of the day. We spent an hour down at Portobello Beach this morning doing some return to running work on the sand, which hopefully Greg's feeling pretty good after, and just this gentle jog in the pool followed by some stretching is going to help the recovery process before his next weight session in the morning and conditioning session in the afternoon. When you're dealing with rehabbing athletes in any sport, there are going to be quite a lot of people who want to feed into that process. Firstly, you're going to have the coach. You may have the surgeon if there's been an operation involved. You'll have the ongoing support of a doctor. You'll have a physiotherapist. You may have a psychologist, a sports scientist, a strength and conditioning coach. Now, whilst there are many masters throughout the UK that would offer expertise in each of these areas, the courses that we're developing at Heriot-Watt and the School of Social Sciences will give you the skills to be able to amalgamate information from these disciplines in order to make an informed decision about when the athlete should, in this example, move through the stages of their return to play. So if we just talk a little bit about the information you might get from each of those disciplines. The surgeon, for example, after the operation will give you a fairly detailed breakdown of the activities that the athlete can go through. These will be split up into stages and will have guidelines associated with each. That can be really helpful, but of course when you're working with someone day to day, you need to have the skills and the experience to be able to tweak those guidelines to bring them in line with your aims, the athlete's aims, and where they are in the process. Hopefully you'll be supported along the way by a physiotherapist. Part of their job will be to provide hands-on support for the athlete, to be able to monitor things like range of movement, and to be able to give support on a day-to-day basis. They may bring some metrics to the table in terms of the number of sessions that they're able to do, the range of movement in key joints, and you'll need to assimilate that information, check it for robustness, reliability, and how that can help you decide when the athlete is ready to move on to the next stage. You should always remember as well that the coach is going to have a significant input into what the player or the athlete wants to do. They may also have pressure on them to have them back for a specific set point in time and a competition that's coming up in the future. Whilst it's always nice to be able to deal with injuries in an ideal scenario and how long we think it should take, sport, especially at the highest level, rarely gives us that luxury. And we need to think about what the injury is, the rehab time, training history of the athlete, and what's an appropriate time frame to aim for in order to get them back. The quicker we can provide that information to the coach, the more realistic he or she can be in planning their return to competition and integrating them back into the squad. What we're going to do just now is going to slow the treadmill down And what we're going to do is get Greg to do some of his dynamic stretches that he's been doing pretty much from the moment he was injured. And just by doing them in the pool this afternoon, we can reduce the load that he's experiencing and hopefully speed up the recovery process. In addition to the surgeon, the physio and the coach, you may have a strength and conditioning coach who inputs into the rehabilitation of the player. Largely speaking, they will take them in the gym. They may do things like squats, single leg squats, deadlifts. They may even do some assisted upper body work. That has to be planned meticulously, and it has to be done in collaboration with the physio. At times in sports, this is where you can get conflict. And someone who is responsible for managing the process of getting that athlete back to training has to understand the pressures and the priorities that each of those disciplines bring with them, and to be able to find, at times of conflict, a route forward that best fits the athlete in question. In addition to strength and conditioning, you may have a sports science or physiologist practitioner. What we'd largely be looking for them to do is collect some data regarding training load. So what's the heart rate associated with different sessions? Are we seeing systematic improvements in fitness over time that the athlete is making in response to the stimulus being provided? We also know from the research that we want to try and avoid spikes in training volume. So that's again something that the sports science or the physiologist has to manage. We want to increase training load over time, but do so in a systematic and organised manner that fits and complements with the work the physiotherapist is doing and also the strength and conditioning coach. That's not an easy task, and it'll largely be governed by the data you receive back from these practitioners, especially if you're not able to work with them on the same site, as is the case with some remote athletes. That will require both an understanding of the disciplines and also an understanding of the data with which they are feeding back. A discipline that you may be able to draw on that is perhaps less metric driven may be psychology. When an athlete gets injured, it's a setback, but it's also an opportunity for them to work on aspects of their skills, of their game awareness, to come back as a better, stronger, fitter athlete. But that needs them to approach it with a certain mindset and a certain understanding of the process that are involved. And that's where a sports psychologist can really help. In terms of managing the process, however, you need to understand what the sports psychologist is doing and making sure they're helping the athletes set realistic goals in line with their stage of training. I'm not sure if we've got any questions in just at the minute from those watching the event, so I'll take any questions to throw out any just now. No? The team says no questions?
Not yet, no.
Okay, either we've answered them all or no one's watching, one of the two. What we'll do is, Greg's just finished some of his stretches now, so we'll get him to come back onto the treadmill. It's moving fairly slowly, and we're just going to increase that up to a jog. What you'll notice, and you may be able to see in the event, is we've got a combination here of factors that can help Greg work harder or easier during the session. We've got the speed of a treadmill, which we've increased to 4 kilometres per hour. And most of you sat at home might think, well, that's pretty slow, that's nothing more than a walk. But as soon as you're in the water, that is a workout. And it means that we can really push Greg, get his heart rate up, and give him a conditioning stimulus without the high ground reaction forces that we would get on the court or outside. In addition to the treadmill speed, we can increase the jets, which you can see at the front of the treadmill, and they just add that little bit of extra resistance to make it easier or harder depending on what stage they're at. If we bring in the disciplines that we've spoken about already, we would be looking for the physiotherapist to input into these sessions, for the strength and conditioning coach to understand what they are and how they link with the work in the gym, and also the sports scientist to be able to give us some metrics with respect to maybe blood lactate or heart rate to give us an idea of how hard Greg's working. The ultimate goal of rehab is always to get the athlete back to the sport they were playing previously in the best possible shape we can, hopefully fitter, stronger and better than when they came out in the first place. At each point in the process there's going to be specific junctions where we need to make a decision. Do we move on or do we regress? One of the most important points is the return to training. This is the point at which the practitioners as a group will decide, we think this player is now ready to go back into individual or squad training, which is largely determined by the coach. We'd be looking for each practitioner to deliver their own metrics, their own key performance indicators that give us the best possible idea to suggest that the athlete or the player is ready to go back in whilst reducing their risk of re-injury. After that, it's about training. It's about training to get back to your next competition and about factoring that competition in at an appropriate time and at an appropriate level. In some sports, we are largely dictated by the pressure that exists on the coach. We have to understand that. In other sports, we can be a wee bit more conservative and give the athlete the best chance to come back at the competition that gives them the most confidence and also the best chance to improve their, whether it's UK or world ranking. So Greg's currently running at 4 kilometres an hour, as we said. Reject's on about 50%. Greg, how hard's that?
Pretty easy.
Pretty easy. This type of situation, we might talk about ratings such as perceived exertion. Physiotherapists might use that. Sports scientists might use it. Strength and conditioning coaches might use that. And it's our way really of getting a good picture of how hard the athlete thinks they're working against the objective metrics that we might be collecting in terms of range of motion, heart rate, blood lactate, or in situations where the player's outdoor or on the court, we can look at metrics associated with GPS, the speed they're running, and the accelerations and movement patterns that they're achieving. That kind of takes us to the end of the formal aspect of the event, and what we're going to do now is slow the treadmill down. As we said earlier, Greg is on a fairly light afternoon. We'll give him a chance to go through his stretches in the pool and take any questions that may have come in whilst I've been talking.
We had a question from Dougie. He wanted to know what was the difference between this programme and a sports science degree?
Okay, so there are aspects of sports science that will exist within largely the management and leadership in sports performance. But what the main difference is, rather than concentrating on being able to deliver sports science services, this course we hope is going to help students to understand the processes of sports science and how they integrate with the other disciplines. So we're not looking at things like heart rate, GPS, lactate, rating of perceived exertion in isolation. We're looking at how they interact with things like physiotherapy, psychology, performance analysis, and the coaching process as a whole. So hopefully the students that are coming out of it won't necessarily be sports scientists, but they'll have enough of an understanding to be able to integrate that information with the wider group.
Okay. And what kind of jobs typically would someone with this postgraduate degree go on to do?
Yeah, so we're hoping that the people, I guess there's two routes. People may come into this having got an understanding of one or more of the disciplines, whether it's physiotherapy or performance analysis, and just want to expand their skill set and to make them a better practitioner and better able to integrate within a multidisciplinary team. We're also hoping that students who come through the degree might go on to have ambitions in terms of performance director roles or support service manager roles, which are currently being advertised with a number of sporting organisations. And they really are required to manage the ologists and the practitioners within sport in order to make sure there's a coherent service being provided. So hopefully at some point in the future we'll have a graduate from the course who is working at that level.
Great. So do you think there's quite good employability sort of potential for someone coming out with this kind of degree?
I think it adds a different dimension to the skill set that is already available through specific courses. And I think as sport becomes more, well, it's become professional, but as it becomes more sophisticated in its support processes, the ability to manage people, manage data, and manage expectations will be as important as the specific industry or discipline knowledge. And we're hoping that people who have that, given the high standards that have already been set, especially in the UK with respect to medal hauls in the Olympics and Commonwealth Games, that they can start to add to that in the future. So yeah, I think it's a hugely competitive market, but the skills that they'll develop here will certainly stand them in good stead within that marketplace.
Great. We've got a question from Shona. She was wondering what injury Gavin had been affected by.
So Greg had a hamstring injury on his right leg.
Okay.
And we've had another one come in saying, must be because of the fairly timely Six Nations question, do the Scotland rugby team use these facilities here?
Yeah, so the Scotland rugby team have been training at Orium in the build up to and during the Six Nations. So they've been using the gym, which is through this wall to the right, and the medical area, which is over that way also. They have, as I understand it, been in the pool and been utilising the contrast baths that we have, and the outdoor rugby pitches and indoor rugby pitch that we have, which is just over that way.
Great. Rebecca's wondering if any famous, no offence Gavin, he obviously very famous in the world of squash. Rebecca was asking if any famous sports people have used the pool, apart from Gavin.
Apart from Greg. I don't know.
Sorry, Greg.
I guess we have a number of professional, we have one professional football team on site, which is Heart of Midlothian. They've certainly had some use of the pool. The women's national football team have also used the pool. So some of the people who are fans of football may recognise some of those names. Hayley Lauder, for example, was in that squad and came through the sports science degree at Heriot-Watt University. The Scotland rugby team, of which many are household names, so hopefully that's enough fame and notoriety.
Yeah, I think so.
Someone else has asked, is it you that teaches the MSc yourself?
I will be teaching aspects of the MSc, yes, and it will be supplemented by some other people from within the team at Odium and also the wider teaching community within the School of Social Sciences.
Great. And Jessica was wondering, do you think you need to have played a sport competitively to kind of get an understanding of this programme, or can you come at it from other sort of areas?
No, okay, so there's definitely, thanks Jessica, that is a really good question. I would say within sport, having played a sport at a level probably does help. I certainly don't think it's a prerequisite, and I think there are enough examples of people now being involved in sport at a pretty high level who haven't necessarily themselves played. So does it help? Probably, but it's certainly not a prerequisite, and I think sport is probably at a point now where it would really value and benefit from people coming in from different backgrounds, for example, human resources, business management, maybe even economics, in order to help them utilise the funds and the services and the provision they've got to be its most effective. Certainly one of the biggest changes in sport over recent years has been the introduction of data analysis and data analytics. Classically, that's not a sports science student skill set, and what you've seen is some people adding real value but coming from maybe that statistical or economical background. So we'd really encourage people who've got an interest in sport but are coming from a different background to look at the master's programme and see whether it fits their ambitions.
Great, I think that's similar. Sebastian was also asking if you hadn't done an undergraduate in a sports-related subject. So if you've done business or marketing, which is what he's done, is it possible to cross over? He said he has been quite active in sports.
Absolutely. As hopefully intimated at the start, there are two programmes, the Management and Leadership of Sports Performance, and that is possibly for people who are coming at it from a sport background in maybe strength and conditioning, sports science, physiology, physiotherapy, but there's also the Management and Leadership in Sports Business, and certainly that is for people who've got that eclectic range of experiences but who want to apply it to sport. So absolutely, for Sebastian, hopefully have a look at the content, and if you're interested, we'd love to have you on board.
Great, we'll post a link to the website after we've finished up. Ryan was asking, is it a one-year programme?
Yeah, it's a one-year full-time programme, but students can enrol part-time, and they can also access the content through modular. So if there are coaches watching who've got a full-time job and family commitments and feel like they can't at the minute commit to the master's course, even if it's in a part-time format, they can access some of the modules and some of the learning materials in a modular way. So don't be put off if you can't quite, conform to that traditional MSc student template. There are still options for you to be able to learn and engage with the material.
Brilliant.
Carol has asked, she wants to know what the large equipment is beside the pool.
Okay, the large equipment by the side of the pool, I've been told I can't go beyond here. Is that about right?
Keep going,
So what we've got here are contrast baths. So certainly after competition, after intense training, athletes may go into an ice bath, and then for a certain amount of time, and then between the ice baths they would go into a hot bath. So we've got a hot bath on the left and a cold bath on the right, and essentially what they're there to do is to aid recovery. The cold water, there's lots of research to suggest that cold water, when implemented after training or competition, can reduce the inflammation response, reduce soreness and speed recovery. Combining it with the hot water has been shown to, I think I'm correct in saying, remove some of the waste products that we would associate with fatigue at a quicker rate and get them back to competition, if you like, in a better way. It's worth noting we wouldn't always use those, so at times, especially with players like Greg, who we're looking to improve their fitness, we do want that inflammation response, and so we have to be quite careful about when we include them in someone's program. But certainly around intensified period of competition, whether it's the Six Nations in a minute, or the women's football team are playing at the Cyprus Cup, I think they'll play 4 games in 3 days. Absolutely, that's where these type of facilities will come into their own. We are in the future going to be hosting multiple game tournaments here, and we fully expect the teams that are playing to get full access to this and to be able to use those baths to get the players up and running as quick as they can.
Brilliant. We don't have any more questions. I don't know if you've got any final comments you want to add to our viewers.
No, I think we covered hopefully most of it in the talk. I think it's quite a unique opportunity for students to come and study a sports programme that is linked to a national performance centre, but also get the academic rigour and the academic robustness and reputation of Heriot-Watt University. Edinburgh's a lovely city if people don't live here. Lots of great opportunities for students in terms of combining their study with workplace learning, but also just a nice place to live. As I said earlier, Greg and I were at Portobello Beach this morning training. Arthur's Seat's a great venue for training. The Meadows is a great venue for training. So it's not just the physical campus that you're buying into, it's all the opportunities that exist in the city. And I think it's well worthy of its title of one of the best places to live in the UK.
So one coming last minute, can you just repeat the name of the sports programme again? Aaron has asked for that.
It's Management and Leadership in Sports Performance and Management and Leadership in Sport Business.
And we'll post some links on the website.
And we're going to post some links on the Facebook page
to
the website at Heriot-Watt, which is where you can look at a little bit more detailed content.
Great. So great. Thank you, and thank you very much, Greg.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.